Nigerians, today is the first day of September 2025. Safe to say happy new month to you. And of course, today got us waking up to reactions that have trailed the Saturday local government elections in Rivers State, which saw the APC winning 20 and the PDP winning 20, only 3 out of the 23 local government seats in that state. And of course, significantly, the fact that the sitting Rivers State Democratic Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Yes, of course. Right now, there is a sole administrator in charge of that state. But as it stands, Siminalayi Fubara is still there, democratically elected governor. He lost his Opobo Nkoro local government area to the APC. A shocking, but I'd say not, but expected change in the political dynamics of Rivers State. And of course, in a post yesterday via X, formerly Twitter, former VP Atiku Abubakar has rejected the outcome of that election, calling it an awful absurdity and a travesty to the very notion of elective democracy. Also yesterday night, we saw former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai saying a lot of things, one of which is the accusation that the federal government is deliberately empowering armed bandits through policies that provide them with monthly allowances and food supplies under the guise of non-kinetic security strategy. He also said a lot of things about the political positioning of the country at the moment. All of those we are going to look into as the conversations proceed. Also, the federal government, through the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Taminu Yakubu, has reiterated that the North, particularly the Northwest, is the greatest beneficiary of the Tinubu administration. And this is also in response to an earlier data published by a national newspaper that most of President Tinubu's projects were being cited in Lagos, precisely the southeast, and some of the data also trickled down to the southeast before the north region even got to be mentioned at all. But of course, the federal government has come out to rebuke that data and of course present their own data to say that all of the publication was a lie. Now, all of these and many more we are going to take a look at today. And of course, we're going to be backing all of that with analysis and salient facts. But I'm not alone in the studio. My name is Chisom Chinedu. Ebuka Franklin Ebuka is here. Good morning, Franklin.
Merci beaucoup, merci. All right, yeah, it's good morning to everybody listening to all this very morning. And of course, it's the 1st of September 2025. And we're glad that we have once again congregated for us to look at the developments in the polity as they are captured by various newspapers. And like you so rightly mentioned, in some of the things that are catching our attention in the country. And I want to talk about what has been the reactions trailing that very TV appearance made by the Jodeanju. After he made that very appearance, we have seen different columns, different articles on newspapers, on blogs. People trying to analyze whether P2B was making the right decision or not. People have been trying to see if they can, differentiate between criticisms and the defamation. And I must tell you that if you go to the social media or even go to the conventional media, you will see different articles and columns on this. So in the coming days, of course, we're going to see if P2B is going to actually make his threat real by going to court, because what he told him is to retract whatever he has said within a certain number of days or face legal or face litigation. So we're going to see what happens in the coming days. And I must say that by the time we get to the analysis, of course, we'll look at other developments that have emerged in some other parts of the country. So don't forget, you can go to our social media platform on Facebook. We are live already. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Let's get interactive.
And of course, we are not alone in the studio. I mean, myself and Franklin. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki is here to do justice to all of the matters on our table today, bringing razor-sharp analysis. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning. Chisom Chinedu, good morning. The good people of Southeast, good morning. The Anambra, good morning. In the Onitsha, good morning, everyone under the reach of our voice. We are just back here in our sanctuary, and we will not forget that this is a new month, a brand new month. And we say that the month of September shall be kind to us. And we also praise the God Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, for making us to see another September to remember. So it is a pleasure to be here. It's not easy. We are back here in our sanctuary, and we have entered into the Ember months. And there is so much to anticipate because we are here to do justice to everything we have before us. You're welcome.
All right, then we are going to proceed to telling you what the front pages of the papers say. We have the Punch, we have the Guardian, This Day, and of course Vanguard newspapers. Banner headline on the Punch newspaper this morning: Rivers LG poll, Atiku demands annulment as Wike reasserts control. The writers: Fibara loses local government, APC wins 20 local governments, PDP claims 3, FCT ministers control temporary. That's from Rivers Elders. Find the story on page 2. And of course, above the nameplate of the paper, you'd see a reps deny alleged planned showdown with Speaker on page 8. The Northwest leads in FEC projects with 5.9 trillion naira FG on page 26. Clap Foundation. Okay, now this is an editorial and I'm not going to go into that. Infractions. FG threatens to disconnect Gencos from power grid on page 30. Tinubu, police mourn as ex-IG RSA dies at 69 on page 7.
All right, so let's look at the headlines on Vanguard newspaper. The banner headline here says petrol consumption down 28%. Ipman groans. It has riders, operators recount ordeal, list causes, pump hands idle at stations. Is trying time for us marketers. Frequent price changes unhealthy for sector, experts warned. You can see the story on page 26 of Vanguard newspaper. And of course, there's a chart there that can, if you look at the chart, tells you how the movement has been since June 2020 to June 2025. Other headline here says wage increase. NECA NLC urge states to emulate Imo Ebonyi. The story is on page 11. Of course, last week we saw Ebonyi and Imo State increase the minimum wage. In Imo State, it was increased to 104,000 naira, and in Ebonyi, it was at 90,000 naira. And we move over to the stories about the nameplate of Vanguard newspaper. Union Bank completes merger with Titan Trust Bank. It's on page 24. So in the coming days, the name Titan Trust Bank will cease to exist because Union Bank has successfully acquired that very bank. Tinubu has been fair to all sections of Nigeria. FG. The story is on page 5. And if you look at what the Minister of Information put out, he gave a breakdown of the road projects that have accrued to different geopolitical zones, and he's saying that the Northwest has got a larger chunk of that very project, about 40% of the project. Then another story we have on this very front page of Vanguard says GTCO increases banks paid up capital to 504 billion naira. The story is on page 25. In 2027, Keyamo wants PDP against fielding Jonathan Obi. The story is on page 8. You can't decide our candidate, PDP replies minister. In fact, the way the minister wrote that thing on X yesterday, he said, let me poke my nose a little bit. And he delved into talking about PDP, saying that if PDP feels Jonathan is going to risk not having a candidate because of one section of the 1999 Constitution, and for Obi, he figured that will be losing credibility because of his mantra that he's going to serve for one term. And also yesterday, Ebuka talked about it. He said those who are saying that they should serve for one time, that they should stop saying it, that nobody is believing that very claim that they do make. Reverse local government polls. APC sweeps 20 councils, PDP 3. It has a rider. Wike hails exercise. Atiku rejects results. The story is on page 12. On sports column, you see story that's on page 38. Rwanda's Amavubi storm Nigeria tomorrow. Of course, it's for our World Cup qualifiers. Mekoma, let's see if we're going to qualify or not, or if we're going to continue to punch our calculators. And the final story on the front page of Vanguard says no sabotage in Abuja Kaduna train derailment. FG. The story is on page 9.
Right then, let's go over to This Day newspaper. Banner headline here: FG Northwest, North Southwest has lion's share of Tinubu's projects. This story is on page 5. It has riders. Budget office releases data, says report misleading. Another rider with 5.9 trillion naira. Yakubu maintains North not marginalized. describes reporters' statistical error, deliberate incitement rather. Idris insists Tinubu fair to all sections of Nigeria, lists key projects in every region. Now, above the nameplate of the above the banner headline, Keyamo, PDP in legal risk feuding Jonathan in 2027. Another one here, El Rufai, Tinubu will come third in presidential election. These stories are both on page 5 of this day newspaper. Above the nameplate of the paper on page 5, Chatham House, corruption undermining Nigeria's economic growth, eroding public trust. The rider says government interference, inadequate funding, hindering anti-graft war. Find this on page 5. Also, Rivers local government election, APC sweeps 20 chairmanship, PDP wins 3. Find these stories on this day newspaper.
Over to get a newspaper, we have the banner headline here that says raw material crisis threatens industrial revival. Nigeria's first policy is on page 6 of the Ghana newspaper. Atiku cries foul as Wike recaptures Rivers grassroots. Fubara political adrift. The story is on page 6. UNICEF NBA push for reforms to end child detention is on page 7. Dangote turns to Ghana for crude, denies shrinking production, RFCC issues. The story is on page 3. And this one says, from sheer north to global markets, positioning Nigeria as a global player in the $500 billion cosmetic industry. A call to Mr. President. These are the stories we have on the front pages of these very newspapers we have read at this very morning.
All right, then we are going to go into the conversation proper, and of course, one of the stories that are quite, would I say, have been repeated by virtually all the papers on our desk this morning is the report of what transpired at the Rivers State local government elections. Tony, APC 20 local governments in the bag, PDP 3 for a government or for a state that used to be under the PDP leadership. Presently, the democratically elected governor in that state is still under the PDP platform, as much as we've heard talks about him going to be going over to the APC when he is eventually reinstated. Since his suspension by the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because of the political crisis in that state. What do you make of that particular election? Is it something you saw coming, or was it something that shocked you when the results came out?
The election in Rivers State has come, has gone, and remember, there was election that was annulled by the Supreme Court on the grounds that the election was not properly conducted. And when Supreme Court made the rulings notifying the election conducted by the then governor, who is illegally suspended by the president, there was need for another election, but the court did not even place it on the executive of the state that it should be now or then. But we saw the sole administrator appointed by Mr. President under no constitutional backing or constitutional leverage conducting an election. We've not seen it in the country. This is the first time a sole administrator appointed. Remember, there had been sole administrators appointed in different times, but they never conducted elections. And issues surrounding the appointment had also been contested in different courts. And I have not seen any courts, even the Supreme Court, either they knock it out based on technicality, but there had never been a pronouncement that state of emergency, as enshrined under the provisions of the 1999 Constitution, also provides for the appointment of sole administrator or sole administratorship, as the case may be. The ones we had in Ekiti State, the ones we had in Plateau State, when Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the governor, he publicly denounced those things. And then he also emphatically and categorically and unequivocally made a statement regarding to these appointments, saying that it is nowhere in our constitution. That is one thing about politicians. When you are out of power, your statements are different compared to when you are in power. what you denounced being out of power, especially if at the presidential level, because when he made those statements, he was in power, but at the state level. But he was not in power at the national level. He denounced some of these things, saying that that is an aberration. These things have no place in our constitution. But now he finds himself in power and it becomes convenient and also exigent for him to not just conceptualize but also to execute. He has executed it. And these matters are pending in court. And you asked, why hasn't the court reason to disperse justice, knowing very well that this matter, for me, is a matter for public, not just interest, not just for public interest, but is a matter of importance. Now, that is just that. We've seen the elections where sole administrator appointed River State Independent Electoral Commission under which law? And we have also seen the National Assembly confirming same. When National Assembly under the Constitution was asked or is asked to take over the legislative business of a state, especially when the state cannot function, there were caveats, there were things that they cannot do. And this is also part of those things they cannot do. And one of those things, conducting election, confirming appointment by who? The Constitution never envisaged that there will be a time anybody who is in there makes an appointment and National Assembly confirms those appointments. So if you look at members of that River State Independent Electoral Commission, where even a non-indigenous was even appointed to head the commission. These things are there, they are a matter of records. And we saw that. So there are a lot of litigations. And we are talking about the outcome of the election. And then when Wike cast his own vote, he says, or he said, let me quote him, that the emergency rule expires on the 18th of September. That's what he says. And he keeps hammering on that. So what it means that the local government structure is now under his control. The argument before now was who controls the local government structure. Wike, we know, has won the battle against Fubara. Fubara, as we speak now, is a lame duck who had before now deceived his gullible fans, his gullible followers. He will come in the day and tell them that he's not interested in that seat. He will go at night and beg for the seat he said he is not interested in. And looking by what was released as the outcome of that very election, what do you expect? I was even expecting them to win the entire 23 local governments. But they were quite benevolent anyway. We are APC party that is not the ruling party in that state won 20 since the conduct of local government elections in Nigeria. Even from the time military administrators were appointing local government chairmen before 1999 until when many of them, the state governors, conducted different council elections in their respective states, we have seen the ruling party sweeping the elections, and most times to their own advantage, and we know why. So that hasn't stopped. So the point I'm trying to make is there are many litigations in court challenging the conduct of that council election, and we are going to see the outcome of it. But so many Nigerians were disappointed that the courts could not even quench the conduct of the election. So many litigations, when they arrived, the court asked them to go back, use substituted service means to serve the defendant, to show cause why such order will not be given. Many people approached the court for the court to give either interim injunction or interlocutory injunction so that the elections will not even go on in the first instance. The courts, what did they do? They shied away. Nobody was tall enough to give any order to stop the conduct of that very election. And you ask yourself this question, what does that portend and many have alleged judiciary being compromised. Many have also alleged one thing or the other. But we will not make statements that also sound such, or it may be implicate the judiciary. But we are surprised that even when germane issues were brought before competent courts of jurisdictions, they couldn't do anything. But now the result is out. So we are going to live with the result until courts, probably by the time they delve into matters of these litigations, we're able to do one thing or the other.
Okay, so Tony, let's look at this specific, because one is that election was conducted without beavers being used. In fact, this very moment before we came on air, I have spoken to 2 journalists who are based in Port Harcourt who covered the election, and I was told that the turnout was very, very low. In fact, even for the videos we saw some people playing football while the election was ongoing. But one thing we have to give to them is that it was largely peaceful, because there was no contest. It was APC and PDP, and those guys who were on PDP are also affiliated to Nyesom Wike. So it's like ECP and Tababi. That was what happened there.
Just for it not to be a one-party election.
Exactly. So the fact is that it was peaceful, turnout was low, beavers was not used. But where I'm going to is, I want us to interrogate the figures that we got from there. If you look at the 2023 general election, the results, the total number of voters who were accredited in Rivers State after the election was 605,055. 605,055. Now, if you now look at the total number of votes that each of the candidates who won gathered, if you do the addition, you see where the figures are. I will just give you an example. The person that won Port Harcourt City local government area, the person scored 235,054 votes. The person that won Oyibo scored 101,495 votes. Then the person that scored that won Opobo Nkoro scored 38,822 votes. Then let's go to Obia local government area. The person scored 328,823 votes. So if you sum this already, we have gone beyond 600 and something in a general election. Then we now have local government election, and we had these very figures, whereas everybody's reporting that it was low turnout. So the question is, does it mean that what happened in River State is like a dress rehearsal of what could happen in 2027? Because people are saying that what happened was allocation of votes, so that by 2027, whatever comes out for River State, they can use this to justify it.
No, I think we should start with going back to the voter register that you already established the figures on. Tony, how do we justify that disparity before we move over to 2027?
The issue of voter register, remember, was the one used during the 2023 general election. So INEC handed the voter register to the River State Independent Electoral Commission, illegally constituted by the sole administrator. You are talking about the figures. Didn't you see the video that has gone viral where there was massive thumbprint for APC? I saw the video, I have it. It's everywhere, where you saw some people, massively thumbprinting for APC. They were thumbprinting. We saw it, the video is here. So when you are talking about the figures, where the number of people that cast their vote during the general election were lowered compared to those who had come out to cast their votes during this local government election. So there is more number according to the figures they released. And at the same time, you are crying low turnout. How can you have massive number when there is low turnout? You see, these things do not collaborate. Whenever there is low turnout, it's expected that the numbers will be what? Low. And whenever there is high turnout, it's also expected that the number will be what? High. Now you have low turnout and you have high figures. So it tells you a lot. But maybe the video we have seen circulating, moving around, may do justice to why it is so. So it tells you quite a lot. Looking around, if you look at the local governments, in fact, the one you call the Port Harcourt City, it was allocated. In fact, what happened that Saturday was pure allocation. I don't want to call it selection. It was allocation. We allocate this local government to this party. And just as you know and I know that the PDP and APC, as we have in River State, both of them are controlled by Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the FCT. We have not seen two parties, political parties, being controlled by one man in a state. It has never happened in the history of this country. It didn't happen during the First Republic. It didn't happen during the Second Republic. It did not happen during the Third Republic. It has never even happened since we entered into the Fourth Republic from 1999. It has just happened now by the dexterity of Nyesom Wike. And when they allocated Obiakpo and Ogba, Egbama, Ndoni, and Port Harcourt City local government to PDP, these are predominantly Igbo local governments. No doubt. I've been to Obiakpo local government. That is where Nyesom Wike is also from. Remember, he was once chairman of that very local government, and he did not want to allocate the chairmanship of that local government to a party he is affiliated. He's in PDP, so he won his local government. But remember, those who won in other local governments, he is in control of that structure. Tony Okocha is completely under his control. Remember, Beke, who is also a factional chairman of that very party, is not under the control of Wike, and he has cried out loud. He has gone to court to challenge Tony Okocha's faction fielding candidates for the next election. So if you look around, even Obobo Nkoro, they allocated it to APC, and that is the local government of the lame suspended governor. But that's true. That's what it is.
Let me ask you a
so
question.
They don't want to allocate PDP to him to sound a message. Even Oyibo local government have been there many times. Have gone there many times. They allocated that Oyibo to APC. So you can understand why they even allocated Emua, Eche, Eleme, Ikwere. These are also Igbo dominated local governments. They allocated it to APC.
What happens now? Wike said it himself that the suspension is ending on the 18th of this month.
He's now the president.
And so, I mean, counting back 6 months from when it started, of course, it's only expected. So even without him being close to the president or it being seen that way, I also understand your perspective. It's not in his place to say that. So when Simnalayi comes back to office, how is he going to be working with people that, I don't know how best to put this so I do not sound biased, but like you said when we started this conversation, Franklin, it is rare and weird that the state's local government structure, the grassroots structure of the state, is controlled by people who do not work closely with the governor. Do you see the dividends of democracy being gotten to the people effectively? And do you also see the political future of River State being peaceful? We've seen how chaotic it's been since the Fubara Wike squabble started. With all of these things happening now, do you think Rivers is going to be quite peaceful, or is this going to be the launch to another round of anarchy?
I think the River State we know very well has been peaceful, apart from those infighting amongst few political parties. I think it was a case where the State House of Assembly and then the executive were having their fight, where one man wanted to stop godfatherism in the state, but he couldn't. And then, for a record's sake, the mandate of the people that empowered River State Governor Fubara is now in the hands of Nyesom Wike. So the issue of whether it is going to be peaceful or not peaceful, it has always been peaceful. The people have been conducting themselves in a peaceful manner. When politicians fight, it's their fight. It does not translate that the state is not peaceful. So look at a man who has shown some signs that he could stop godfatherism, as was done. Remember?
But we always see godfatherism fighting back. It happened in Anambra.
In Anambra State, Ngige stopped it, and it stopped permanently. But
it fought back.
Definitely, you can't fight somebody without a person fighting back. So at the end, you ask who defeated each other. So Ngige did not allow them to have control of the state treasury, or the state resources, or the state structure, political structure.
That set of godfathers. After that, has there been no other instances of godfathers? I mean, there would always be the anointed.
We are talking about
the anointer.
The thing is, we have not had godfather reason. If you had seen governors who succeeded their predecessors, they worked independently. Peter Obi never controlled Obiano, even when he had wanted. Obiano felt that he would govern the state independently. There's nothing wrong by a governor who was living to tell the people to support this person. I trust him. There's nothing wrong with that. And it cannot be seen as a godfatherism syndrome if the governor works independently.
All right, let's go back to River State.
So now, going back to River State, we've seen where the predecessor has been tormenting the successor. The predecessor in this case is Chisom Wike, and he nominated number of commissioners. We saw how many of them that resigned when he started to fight back to say that you can't be the FCT minister and at the same time the de facto governor of River State. But he couldn't. People stood by him, likes of Edwin Clark that died few months ago. Even the job people, the Obobo people, the River State stakeholders, the elders, they came. They backed him. They sent messages to Mr. President. But in all of this, it happens that it's ended the way it ended. So my concern is we are back to where we are. So the point remains that for whatever reason, by the time court dispense with some of these litigations, we know what. But anybody can give his opinion on what happens. And then what had happened in the River State, I'm just giving my own opinion, my personal opinion. So the point remains that, yes, he tried, but it is back to square one. So we see him following his political godfather to burial, to naming ceremony, and that's what we can wanted. Possibly, what he's after is his not just return, maybe being in a position to be re-elected. So he has been captured by Wike completely.
Okay. Do you trust that he is going to get a chance of being re-elected? Do you trust that he's going to get a chance?
No, it is something that will be looked into because he has been given chance to serve out his time. So as he serves out his term, his loyalty would also be put under scrutiny. So if he has shown or if he shows that he's going to be completely loyal, he may be given that text as we have it now. By the time he returns back, the list of commissioners that work with him must have been given to him. Then the local government chairman that he's going to work with, you've seen them being elected. And then the head of agencies, as we have presently, he will be asked not to change any that the sole administrator has made.
It's expected that he would be asked not to change.
Yeah, he will be asked not to. So what it means that he's going to be there as a lame duck. But not, if you ask me, there are people that will say, instead of I will be in this format, I will better resign.
Right,
he does not want to resign.
That's a postulation, Tony Franklin. Let's round off on this conversation.
So Tony, the 1999 Constitution created INEC and SEC and gave them power to conduct elections. Then the same 1999 Constitution gave INEC the powers to make laws that will enable election conduct in Nigeria. And the way we have had is that we have electoral act that governs election in Nigeria, and INEC shoulders most of the responsibility. Like the voter register we use is produced by INEC. Now, but what we have in the system is that INEC conduct election for federal, state level, and then election in the FCT. That's what INEC does. Then SEC takes care of the conduct local government elections within each state. Now, in this electoral act, if you look at section, trying to be specific about this very section, if you look at section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, it provides for a mandatory use of a smart card reader or any other technological device prescribed by INEC
Mandatory.
for accreditation during elections. So my question now is, for SEC, are SEC bound by the provisions of the Electoral Act? Because if SEC uses voter register produced by INEC, so are the same SECs bound by the provisions of the Electoral Act? If that is so, what becomes of this very election result that we have in River State? And if there is any, let's say, if there's any room that somebody can go to court and get something reasonable, who can go to court to question the election in River State?
The RISIEC, as we have in River State, is not bound by the provisions of the Electoral Act. So they did not conduct that election with the provisions of the Electoral Act. But there is this saying that you have, the Electoral Act, you have the RISIEC. It's expected that both of them should work in harmony. And then according to our Constitution, under Section 1, subsection 3, where there is issues both do not address. Remember, conduct of local government election is within the gambit of the state government. It's not within the gambit of the federal government, or as we have it. So the law relied upon for the conduct of that election was the River State Independent Electoral Act, not Independent National Electoral, or the Electoral Act as we usually call it. So it is the River State Independent Electoral Law, and I have said it many times so that we don't make mistakes. Laws made by states, they are known as laws. The one made by the National Assembly is known as acts. So when you use the word act, it's expected that the law was actually made by the National Assembly. But when you use the word law, it's expected it was made by a particular state's assembly. So in this case, we have River State Independent Electoral Law. You now have Electoral Acts. So which of them was used for the prosecution of the election? The River State Independent Electoral Law. You ask, does the electoral law in River State provide for the use of card readers, beavers, and all that? Or did it make it optional? If it does make it optional, you may not use it against the body for the fact that he made it optional. And remember, if you go by the virtues of the Electoral Act, it was made mandatory. But the act was not what was relied upon for the conduct of the election. So we must understand these nuances. And if for you to challenge the outcome of this election, you don't go to Federal High Court to challenge it. If you go to Federal High Court to challenge it, you are making a mistake. It will be challenged before the State High Court, because the State High Court has original jurisdiction over the conduct or over the outcome of that election. But if you're talking about pre-election matters, depending on the very issue, if you're talking about PDP or APC, the authentic faction who should have fielded candidate or this and that, you may go to Federal High Court, because you're talking about the national parties of the two national parties. But then if you're talking about the outcome of this election, it should be before the State High Court. I think I have explained this long time before when we had outcomes of different elections we saw in different states. So the outcome of this election cannot be contested before any Federal High Court. It can only be contested before the State High Court. So, and I don't want to preempt anything, judging by the provisions of the law, but it's expected, because the law also makes it as a matter of importance that where there is disagreement between the state law and the federal law takes precedence, and the state law, as the case may be, to the extent of its inconsistency, remains null and void. I think that's under section 1, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, that where there is some level of inconsistency between the laws made by the National Assembly and the laws made by the State Assembly, the one made by the National Assembly takes precedence, and the ones made by the State Assembly, to the extent of its inconsistency, remains null and void. I think that's the provision of Section 1, Subsection 3, but it can only be pronounced so by a court of competent jurisdiction.
And I also like to ask you, Tony, real quick, other state local government elections, do they use beavers?
If you ask, there were those that used, there were those that do not use. So everything is a function of your own law.
Your own laws. All right. Let's go over to other political matters. We saw a lot of things happen over the weekend, like we said earlier. We are going to move over to looking at the things Festus Keyamo said, speaking about the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development yesterday, advising the PDP against fielding either former President Goodluck Jonathan or former Governor of Anambra State Peter Obi as its presidential candidate. But of course, we've had groups like Kuriwa caution Keyamo and other cabinet members to concentrate on their official duties. But let's look at that, would I call it, perspective of PDP risking a legal issue if they field Jonathan. I recall on this platform we have earlier talked about the chances. He already has spent 5 years, and the Constitution gives a maximum of 2 tenures, which gives 8 years. And so we have tried to look at the possibilities of fielding a Jonathan candidate, and of course the possibilities of Jonathan even accepting to come out for another round of elections in the country, Tony.
I think we said something of this nature last week, and I was very
emphatic,
detailed when I was explaining the difference. We have an amendment, constitutional amendment in 2018, and in that amendment it was explicitly stated that if you are completing the term of your principal, you shall serve just one more term. If you look at the National Assembly when they instructed that very proviso, so they were looking at for something where somebody will be in office for, or be sworn into an office for 3 times. When Yaradua died, Jonathan was sworn to complete the term of Yaradua. That's the first swearing in. Then when he contested 2011 election and won, according to the INEC results, he was also sworn in. That's the second time. So if he goes on now to contest, he will be sworn in for 3rd time. So in a way to cut down swearing people into office for 3 good times, which many felt that was a lacuna in the Constitution because the Constitution did not address it properly. That was the need for that amendment. So the amendment came as a way to remove the ambiguity surrounding the issue of swearing in and holding offices. Now, there was that amendment, well intended, but the question is, would that amendment hold on to Jonathan, or would Jonathan be held accountable to that amendment? And I said no. Reason being that the law or the acts we have in anywhere is a natural known practice. It is not retrogressive in nature. And I cited an instance. EFCC Act was made sometime around 2004, thereabouts. You cannot use EFCC Act to try any body that had committed anything before the emergence of that act. You can't just use EFCC Act to even try the likes of, if Chiwo Kemadoju was to be alive and you are bringing a case against him when you know his tenure expired in 2003, long before the EFCC Act was, so no law is retrogressive in nature. So it could not be seen that the law was designed against that person. Laws are made to address present, not past. You don't make laws to address past. So if you make law to address past, it will be well stated that this law is made to address the past, the present, and future. So laws are made to address present occurrences, not past occurrences. So what Jonathan, before now, Jonathan was sworn in 2011, and by the virtue of the law we had then, he still has 1 term. So yes, we had the constitutional amendment, but that one, Jonathan's remaining term predates the amendment, so he will still serve it out. So, but if you are if he chooses to anyway, if you are talking about Lucky Ayedetiwa of Ondo State, I said it last time we were here that the amendment had been done before his own occurrences took place, so he's held by that very amendment.
That's pretty clear.
He's held by that amendment because the amendment has been made and its own happened. So once he is done with this present term, Lucky Ayedetuwa of Ondo State, we don't go for another term. I said it last time we were here. So it's very clear.
Okay, so let's look at the other angle to what he said, or rather the other perspective to what he said, because he talked about Jonathan and then talked about P2B and even any other person coming from the southwest. Now for P2B, he said that bringing the former Labour Party candidate into PDP fold will not make any difference for the party. Now he's of the view that Obi is beginning to lose credibility, and that his one-time pledge could dilute support among his followers. That is the way he puts it. And I just want to take an extract from what he said. He said, the principled ones amongst the obedients will see him as going back to his vomit and may not be too vociferous in their support anymore. That's what he said. Now, so looking at what Keyamo said, do you think that Obi is losing credibility? That's number one. Or Keyamo is just playing the role of an opposition to be a spoiler in their act of rebuilding?
I think Keyamo is making the statement expected of him. He's a minister of aviation and aerospace development, working under the president. So what do you expect him? So if anybody is losing credibility, it's not even the one to tell us who is losing credibility or not. If we popularize issue of popularity vote as we have in United States of America and UK, most Western countries, at every point they check popularity vote of whoever that has been sworn in as either the president or the prime minister. They do check it from time to time based on certain policies, government policies, economic policies. After any policy, they will check the popularity ratio or the popularity index. I think this result would have shown who is losing or who is gaining. But for the fact we don't have such kind of thing here in this country, even if we have it, it will be compromised as usual. What we need to know is, even when we think the ballot may not decide the fate, as many have had such feelings, but for now we can also count on a ballot. Is Obi losing popularity? If you say he's losing popularity, on what ground? What are the indices? What are the facts that support your claim? It's another thing. But remember, it is not in the place of opposition. Like if anybody who is in now Labour or ADC comes out to say that the president is losing popularity, he's making opposition statements. If anybody who is the other side is making, is also seen at that way.
Tony, from the words on the street or from the feelers, from what we can feel from different people. Let me give you an instance. After the last by-election in Anambra State, I know that there were statements, suggesting that Obi was no longer commanding the influence people thought that he has. They gave instances of how he couldn't, garner vote for his preferred candidate for the by-election in Onitsha North, and likewise by-election in Anambra South Central District. So from what you know, whether in the eastern part of Nigeria, in the western part of Nigeria, of course you play in the social media, you know what it is. Do you think that he's losing credibility or he's gaining more followership as days go by?
Let me hang on what you raised to make my analysis. One is my opinion. Before Obi won how many states? I think approximately. How many states did he win in last election? He won probably plus or minus about eight of them. If you add the FCT.
Yes, he did 8.
If you add FCT. Remember, before he won that, he lost all the candidates he had supported in the past before that election. That election was in 2003, right? That was election in 2003. Yes, before then, he had supported a candidate since he handed over to Obiano in 2014. He supported a candidate in 2017 election when Obiano was going for second term. And that candidate he supported lost, no doubt. Then in 2021 election, when Soludo was coming up, he also supported a candidate. So he supported Obaze in 2017, supported Ozigbo in 2021. These two lost elections. People never voted for them. But that did not stop him from winning or for the stride he made in 2023 election. So if you hang it on the fact that he had presented candidates and these candidates had lost in the past, you should also remember that it didn't start today. All the candidates he had been supported in the past, they have lost elections, but it did not stop his gigantic outing in 2022 general election. Nobody believed he could even amaze such numbers. And if you go by BBC records, because we saw BBC record gave River State and gave Benue State to him. So if you go by BBC or River State, he could have won 8. So he could have won 10 as against.
He won 16 states.
He won 16 or 12 because
he won 16
a
states.
BBC report says he won 12.
No, they were all. Let me get it now.
All equal.
They all won 12 states, but FCT cannot be counted as a state. So if you count FCT as a state, they were all 12.
Okay, so Tony,
they were all 12.
Tony,
so if you go by BBC report, he could have won more. So the point remains that I think the point I'm trying to make here is very simple. In the past, even before that election, where he won about 12 or thereabouts, he had lost those he had supported. He went around with those people during campaigns. He took them round, but he lost them. He lost the elections.
It's not about the people now voting for a person hiding under Obi's shadow. It's about the people voting for the person in question. That's what you're trying to say.
That is the point, and we've seen it. If you go by social media, because there is no polling booth in the social media. If you go by popularity text, I think the most popular here in this country, I think, is Facebook. Obi has how many followers there compared to the one Mr. President? We are just trying to be factual. We are trying to look at figures. If you go by this, I think the president has about 869,000 followers on Facebook, but Obi has about 1.2 million.
But like you said, elections are not conducted or won on social
That's
media.
it.
So let's go over to what El-Rufai had to say yesterday night concerning the government of President Bola Tinubu. Not also leaving out the fact that he did say that he contributed in making Bola Tinubu the president. He was one of the people who, canvassed votes for him during that election. But he has said that the president has derailed from the original track that was intended to help Nigerians pull out of poverty. 13 million people have sunk deeper into the pits of poverty in the last 2 years. And El-Rufai is of the opinion that the president, Bola Tinubu, would come third in the next election. And also he made a statement about how the government of the day, and of course governments that still negotiate with terrorists across the country, are in, would I call it, a shadow way, supporting insurgency, because when you pay them off to back off, they procure more arms to attack you. What do you make of those statements, starting with the political side of it?
When he said that he was one of those that made the president, I think it would be better rephrased that he contributed. Not that
he said he was one of those who, in his word, he said he was one of the people who contributed.
I think he contributed, there's no doubt.
He didn't say he made impression.
If you look at Mr. President, when he went to Chatham House, sometime around December 5th, 2022, he was asked a number of questions during the interactive section. He delegated some of them to members of his team that followed him to Chatham House. If you look at those that followed him to Chatham House, you quite agree with me that Nasir El-Rufai, he was governor then, was one of those that followed him to Chatham House. Femi Bajabamila, who has been well settled. Kayode Fayemi, former governor of Ekiti State, not settled. Babatunde Fachola, Minister of Works and Housing during the time of Buhari, not settled. Abdullahi Ganduje, the then governor of Kano State, settled, but his settlement has expired. Dapo Abiodun, the then governor of Ogun State, he's still the governor of Ogun State. He followed Mr. President. Even Simon Lalong, governor of Plateau State and the DG of the campaign council, who was also settled by being appointed as a minister, but he felt that he should go back to take his position as the senator representing his people, because he was one of those that the appeal court brought back based on the primaries of PDP. So you talk about Betty Edu, settled. If you talk about Dela Alake, settled. Festus Keyamo, settled. He was the spokesperson of the campaign council anyway. If you talk about Ben Ayade, the then governor of Cross River State, not settled. If you talk about Dave Umahi, then governor of Ebonyi State, settled. So if you look around those that follow Mr. President to Chatham House, El-Rufai is not the only person that was not settled. Ben Ayade was not also settled, just like I have also pointed out earlier on.
He said that if he had been settled, using your words, that he would have resigned because the government is not.
That is not true. That's not true. That's not true. That's not the El-Rufai we know will not resign. How many times have we seen El-Rufai resign his appointment? When he was deputy minister, we saw quite a lot. Many people cried. Many people shouted. Did he resign? Did he throw in the towel? So the point I'm trying to make is the fact that he had told that he would be giving the minister of either he was expecting ministerial position from the area of security, because Mr. President delegated security question to him at Chatham House. When the anchor person asked Mr. President question on security, he asked El-Rufai, take on that question. Even on the issue of oil theft, he delegated it to Alake. I remember that period. In fact, on the issue of youth involvement and then inclusion, he dedicated it to better. We watch all those things. So even on the issue of health, he dedicated it to Ben Ayade. So the point I'm trying to make is this: El-Rufai is feeling wounded, no doubt. He actually gave time. I've seen his remarks. He said actually the person that stopped him from being appointed a minister was the president himself. He first nominated him and also used the National Assembly to stop him. You may agree with him on that. For the National Assembly to stop him being confirmed as a minister couldn't have been possible without the connivance of the president. So he may well be true.
Do you think his supposed ambitions are possibly the reason?
I think for whatever reason, he was having a running battle with some personalities, no doubt. And during the time of Buhari's administration, he was literally the spokesperson. Apart from the fact we had from Garuba Shehu and then those more normal spokesperson we had. He was the chairman of the committee that APC put together to answer questions on restructuring, because APC promised restructuring when they were coming for when they were campaigning, when they were coming for presidency in 2014, in fact leading to 2015 general election. They said that they would restructure Nigeria, and they gave their perspective about restructuring. They talked about issue of state police, regional. They said so many things that they would do. The El-Rufai we are talking about today was later made the chairman when President Muhammad Buhari was sworn in to answer those questions and come up with a clear-cut perspectives, and he did. Submitted to Mr. President. Buhari said he wasn't interested. What did El-Rufai do? I think if you compare Buhari's time and the present time, apart from the issue of Naira losing its value and the hunger being high, purchasing power being eroded as a result of the triple policies of this present administration on the area of fuel subsidy removal, flotation of Naira, and then other policies the government brought on board to see how they can ensure that the arbitrage market that exists in the foreign exchange corner, these things will be no more. So, in all and all, El-Rufai has been known as somebody who plays the ostrich. I can give you his past activities as governor of Kaduna State.
Speaking about his activities as the governor of Kaduna State, let's talk about insecurity, because he's also of the opinion that the way we are handling insecurity, via the negotiation, the non-kinetic means is instead of reducing insecurity.
What did he do as the governor of Kaduna State? El-Rufai, during his time as governor of Kaduna State, and presently now that Governor Obasani is the governor, insecurity has reduced in Kaduna State. You can quote me. He was governor for good 8 years. He was playing religious politics. Why did the Nigerian Bar Association, when they wanted to have their convention, say that El-Rufai will not speak? There were petitions against him, and there were cries everywhere. He was not seen on viral video where he was saying that the Christians would not be allowed to have a hold in Kaduna State? Was it not the one seen on the video where he also said that when you talk about the Fulanis, the statements he made against them. So El-Rufai has so many baggages, you don't know where to excuse him. So would you also now say El-Rufai is now a holy person, or that very holier than thou for the fact he's saying that there is insecurity? I must let you know we are speaking fact here. During his time as governor of Kaduna State, the Kaduna South, the Zaria aspect, you can't go there. Many policies he brought up, he brought on board. He nearly lost his election.
You don't.
Basani won, marginally.
I'm not saying that he has suddenly become.
Are we talking about the messenger or the message?
I am talking about the message, not the messenger. That's what I'm trying to say.
If you are talking about the message, that the way we're handling insecurity is not the way we could have handled it. He was one of the most closest person
to have changed
to
what we are doing today.
Yes.
Buhari isn't all up in the past. Looking at what we are doing today and how we have fared with the approach, do you agree with him, and what should change?
Definitely, we have said it many times here that if you want insecurity to stop in this country, the present approach is null and void. Obviously, we know the way we are going about it. I have not seen the major difference between the way we went about it in the past and what we are doing now. You can claim that we don't usually have that bomb blasts or bomb explosions that we had in the past, but as we have now, we are having many people being held in hostages. We've seen many hostages. So the point is, we know what to do. I wouldn't say we don't know what to do. We have the NIA. We also have different intelligence units in this country. We also have the NFIU. We have so many of them. The question is, why is insecurity thriving in this country? It's thriving. It's one of the most thriving shadow economies we've got in this country. There are so many economies we've got. It's one of the most thriving part of it. The other day we talked about how much that has been exchanged in terms of a ransom payment and what have you. So are we doing what we expected to do? The answer is no. And should we continue to do what we are doing? Are we going to see any change? The answer is no. So these things are very evident. You don't need anybody to tell you. There are places in this country you cannot even go. There are places where so the point remains that I have thought by now we should have taken the issue of security serious. So why is it that no president wants to allow states to have their own policing system and policing architecture and ensure that they take over the ungoverned spaces within their state? Why has no president allowed that?
Can they not do that with the security outfits they already have on ground?
The truth, they cannot. There is much they can do.
Ammunition differences?
I have said it the last time we were here. Remember, security is all about kinetic and non-kinetic. It's all about carrot and stick approach. When you talk about carrot, you must provide those basic things. You must make sure that leadership, the people at this grassroots, they feel this impact of leadership. We have got so many things that many youths, many of them, they are straying because there is no laid down government policies that will make them to be engaged. What are we doing in the area of agriculture? Remember, there are places we can turn to agricultural hub, and agriculture has a kind of a distant value chain that can accommodate quite a number of people. What are we doing about our energy crisis? For now, we are aware that some people do not have power, and there's so much you could do with power. What are we talking about? Fighting corruption. So there are so many things that we are not doing, which if we do, we've seen governments come, we've seen governments left, but it's still the same thing. The same thing. So the last time we were here, you see Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission talking about to review the salaries and allowances of political appointees, and we saw the professor saying that we can't continue with what we have been, what we are earning. What are we doing in the area of education? What are we doing in the area of health? What are we doing in the area of youth empowerment? Or some of these policies of government, credit card, conditional cash transfer. These things are not working.
All right. Let's also take a look at development. What I call it, formula the present administration is working with. Because when you started the conversation about the things we need to do, going back to the grassroots to make sure that we do not have the population that could be easily co-opted into crime, I thought back to the report that is coming from the in response to it's coming from the budget office of the Federation, All right. In response to that publication over the weekend, that most of the present administration's projects are cited in the southwest, particularly Lagos State. And then the response coming from the General Office of the Budget Department that the Northwest has been a very crucial benefactor of the policies and the spendings of the present administration. And I am wondering what they've been able to address. If all of those projects have been awarded, if all of those funds have been released for the development of the Northwest, why is it not directly impacting the reduction of things like crime and poverty, Tony?
One thing is this: infrastructure alone is not just the problem of this country.
And that means we are focusing on the wrong kind of infrastructure.
And that's what I'm saying. Infrastructure, building elitist road network for the elites, trying to serve their overbloated image is not just that. We know that infrastructure attracts investment, because those who are making investment in the area of infrastructure that are looking at investment is going to attract. The question is, how many investments have we been able to attract? The issue is, what climate do we have? We have insecurity, and nobody puts his money where there is insecurity. If you put your money in there, you are not even sure of you coming out, not even to talk about your money. So it is a critical issue before us, but the question is, how do we approach it? And we know that insecurity is fueled by quite a number of factors. We have the economic factors, you have the religious factors, you have the political factor. There are so many factors fueling insecurity. So how are we addressing these factors that are fueling insecurity? The economic factor, what are we doing about it? The measures we are put in place, the cushioning effect, these things are not working. They are not impactful. They work in silos, and you cannot achieve much by working in silos. I have said it many times here. The government needs to copy a lot from Brazil. Mr. President was in Brazil the other time. Brazil has almost the same population with us. Look at what they are doing to contain youth restiveness and so many excesses. But what are we doing here? We're seeing politicians living flamboyantly, living comfortably, flaunting quite a lot, the laws being above the law, as we have seen in many cases. So that is the issue here. And where corruption is being not just endemic, but being driven down to the grassroots now. If you ask anybody who is doing whatever he's doing, we give him thousands of excuses why he's doing what he's doing. So the country will not function this way. So we have neglected the critical things we need to do. How are we funding our education? The other time we saw the lecturer saying that most of the schools that are dilapidated are worn out. How much have we invested in education? What investment have we made in any sector, hoping that in the next 5 or 10 years, look at the returns we are going to tell me any sector in this country we have made the right investment? We've not.
Okay, so Tony, let me take the second leg of that very data that came out over the weekend, which prompted the Ministry of Information and the other one to react, because the data Chisom cited was also cited by the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, where he said yesterday that the federal government or the government of President Muhammad Buhari, the government of President Bola Tinubu has been fair to all Nigerians, and he has been fair to all the geopolitical zones in the country. According to him, that government has prioritized inclusivity and then being fair in distribution of appointments and also capital projects. Now, he gave a breakdown saying that the Northwest has taken larger chunk of the capital project in the country, taking about up to 40% of what has been allocated, and in terms of monetary value, about 5.something trillion naira. And that very breakdown showed that Southeast is second from rear. Southeast has a larger percentage of allocation in terms of project ahead of Northeast. Now, from what the minister put out, he said, look at it from every point of view, that there is equity in the way the government of the day has been able to allocate these very resources to ensure that everybody feels included. Do you think this government has been fair in terms of appointment and then distribution of capital projects to all the geopolitical zones? And why are we having Northwest having larger chunk? Is it because of these eyes on election? Is that why we're having the Northwest having that larger chunk of the project?
I think the last time the special advisor to Mr. President, I think Sunday Dare tried to solve this puzzle. We saw him committing harakiri when we are talking about the issue of appointments. He was trying to list all the appointments across different geopolitical zones. And we were here, we pointed out a lot he did not mention from the Southwest. So by the time we were able to point out those he did not mention, we discovered that the Southwest has the highest chunk of appointments. You can't just use any form of media to overwrite fact. And we also backed it that when the former president was in power, he almost did the same thing. If can't, you can say he was the one that institutionalized crayonism, prebendalism, moraboism, and some of these things that, for one reason or the other, play down on meritocracy. We said it last time we were here. Now they have tried again to bring the issue of projects, and I can bet you that so many never mentioned who is giving out this figure, who is giving out this data, and for what intent and for what purpose. We know the purpose. The purpose is to make it look that there is projects cited in this so place as against what people think. Yes, we are aware. If you look at what is going on in Lagos State alone, you will quite agree with me that special status Oluromi Tinubu had sought through her bill for Lagos to be classified as a special state seems to be working now, even when there is no law backing it out. So the point remains that yes, I'm aware that there are so many projects going on in the northwest, northeast, and so many other things, as the case may be, and most of these projects, rail, you talk about the road, you talk about these things, but southeast is the least. When it comes to federal allocation, southeast is the least.
Are we complaining? Are we making this known? Because it looks like the northern representatives are all about it, letting everybody know that they want more. Are we letting the government know that we want more? We deserve more.
Our representatives are not talking as expected, apart from few you can count. If you go to southwest, Lagos Ibadan, Lagos Chagamo, they are being dualized. Or Yobomosho in Lorin. There are so many of them. Even the deep sea port access road that was done few months ago. So you can also talk about the light rail and the metro. So there are so many things that are going on in that very corner. But then if you ask what is going on in Southeast, they will tell you that the Enugu Onitsha road, about 107-kilometer road that has long been even many governments will use it to do whatever they want to do.
So we need to attend to some commercials. Okay. All right, and when we come back, we'll probably round up for that conversation and open up the phone lines to stay.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread, for your family breakfast. Wendy's bread, I'll pack it on the dosialo. Wendy's bread, mama papa they like Wendy's bread, that kitchen and do. Wendy's bread, even children they like Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, Wendy's bread, get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread, Wendy's your battery. Wendy's bread,
Wendy's bread, your tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, 2nd Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Misha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Hooray! Football is alive again in Onitsha. One Nibonyegu, one Nimekegu, Egwekere Football Street Championship. My guy, come rep your street. Come show the world that your street has got the best talent in town. Egwekere Football Street Championship. Egwekere Football Street Championship is a football tournament to be played among different streets of Onitsha. Winners will take home 1.5 million naira. I repeat, 1.5 million naira. So what are you still waiting for? Call this number
0806 391 5257
for your registration and further inquiries. Registration runs from 1st to 30th of August 2025. Special thanks to our headline sponsors, Winners Global Estate Limited, and our media partners, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Ebuka Football Street Championship. Ball Obe na Doda.
Public announcement. The Anambra State Housing Development Corporation, ASHDC, wishes to inform all the allottees of the Obuwane, Liberation and Green Valley Housing Estates, Oka Capital Territory, respectively, that the corporation has opened up all the roads in these estates. Consequently, allottees are to take physical possession of their plots and develop same to habitable state. It is mandatory that allottees secure the necessary approvals before proceeding for development. Allottees who fail to comply with this directive risk revocation of their allocation. Be also informed that we have limited number of plots in these estates for allocation to interested persons on first come first allocated basis. Please be guided accordingly. Signed, Jane Okafor, Head of Media and Marketing, Anambra State Housing Development Corporation.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
The time is now. Put a call across to 0803-827-6694 or 0803-827-6973 to be a part of the conversation. You have 2 minutes. Please go straight to the point and be as objective as possible. Let's hear you. Good morning. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Right, you need to reconnect. Don't also forget that we are live on Facebook at Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You can drop your comment right under the live video. You can join the conversation via putting a call across to 0803-827-6694 or 0803-221-6973. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Hello?
Yes, good morning.
Lady, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you loudly.
I wish you the best and the entire house. Keep Tony Olisa and my son Franklin. It's a beautiful day and it's going to be a beautiful month. No matter what, September is beautiful. Now to the issues at hand, Keep Tony Olisa Mbeki. You made a wholesome analysis this morning. And then we must now begin to think inward. My name is Odeze. We must begin to think inward. Here we are. Every day, we keep repeating ourselves like broken records. You know, the old his master's voice. We keep repeating it. We take one inch forward and take 20 backwards. This is the time now to say, okay, all else has failed. What do we do? Stop with what one of my best analysts called work of shame. Bringing people who are so complex, venting one kind of anger or another on those they are supposed to rule. All what they suffered when they were young, they bring it up in rulership. And that is why we are where we are. Work of shame. Complex. We must begin to know how to remove that. And of course, we begin to talk of Tinubu, Rufai, and the rest. And they are doing that. Look at our president, Mr. Tinubu, with all due respect. What is his claim in Greek? What? Rufai is a fundamentalist Islam, Muslim. And he belongs to a sect that isn't really that popular. The ones that want to dominate the Salakawas. And they resent that, and that's why he keeps running from pillar to post. Then we say, okay, someone has come up, oh, it's media this, it's network this, is that. This will became. We are sorry. No matter how we try to trample on his vision in 23, that election 23, to act as a watershed, to learn, not to discard. So therefore, we're going to go to INEC proper. rejig it proper. Remove it from the purview of the president. The judiciary, remove it from the purview of the president. You don't do that. You don't take a step. You will not. That is that for that. Now for Southeastern.
You should be rounding off now, does it?
Please, 1 second. 1 second, please. See, the Southeasterner has really not shown any prowess in politics. He is politically myopic. It's when he comes to us and he goes to Lagos. Take it to federal government. See what you raise now. God will bless us. Have a wonderful day.
Enjoy the rest of your day too. 0803-827-6694, 0803-221-6973. We are live on Facebook at Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Drop your comment right there. And of course, we've been moving from political to security issues, and of course, back to that issue about which region is getting the most of projects from the federal government of the day. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
From
Go ahead, please. 2 minutes.
Okay. Tony has been doing a wonderful thing today. I must commend him as usual. The truth is that there are people representing from the pocket. Only the Southwest and Southwest. Then secondly, L5 does not have the right to speak against this government because he's part and parcel of this government. Just that he's afraid that they are ruling out or they're stepping out. That's why he's talking like this. L5 is not the person that can never be trusted this government. L5, he can never be trusted. You can just go and see his first person as the governor of the state. You see the kind of mess he did there. He's too tribalistic and too religious too. In fact, I don't know how to compare him at all. He doesn't have the moral talk, he doesn't have the behavior to talk at all. So just keep quiet.
All right, thank you for your contribution. Let's hear you. Good morning.
Yes, wonderful morning to you, lady of the house. Continue to.
Good morning.
Franklin and Olisa Mbeki. Good morning. Honorable Deacon, I'm calling you from Onitsha.
Go ahead, DK.
The fact is this. Any Nigerian trying to say that President Baz is fair to all regions and south, even the Southwest, apart from Lagos. Let me tell you the truth. That person is an enemy of Nigerians. I don't want to, if I should bring it out to the Southeast, any governor or politician supporting President Baz trying to say that he's fair to the Southeasterners, South, is an enemy of the people. I mean, what are we not seeing under this present administration? Is it the insecurity? Is it look at the lopsided appointment? Everything about this country is urbanization. So this will tell you the fact that any individual group or an organization telling you that President Baz is fair to all, to be frank with you, I mean, that person is pushing Nigerians to the wall. Now, the last election that brought in President Baz, did he win the election? Someone came out and said that P2B is losing when they want to shine, Motley is no longer talking. It's not Adeyanju. And the P2B is losing credibility. On what basis? A man that is setting the standard, a man that is well accepted at close blow, a man that we are no longer talking about the issue of state politics or national politics. African continents is looking up to this man. You know, one of our greatest problem in Nigeria is that you see an aspect. Instead of you to tap into the aspect, you are just busy trying to see how you can run the person down. So what we are trying to say is that the president is not fair to Nigerians. Apart from some of his few friends, Yoruba friends, and the one that claimed he stood with him in Chicago or so. These are just some few friends. Okay? And there's some immediate families. So it's not fair to anybody. he must have to, call a spade a spade. The fact is that under his administration, we have something we have not seen. We are in 2025, and all his governance for now is 2027. We are not even in 2026. Look at the type of election that he did. A military man supervising election, a democratic election, under the watch of his administration. Look at how they have reduced Fubara. Are you trying to tell me that if I'm from River State, I will be okay with what he's doing? The answer is no. So I think anybody supporting him must have to, if I should borrow the words of our governor, Professor Chikomata Soludo, must have to have his head re-examined. Thank you so much.
All right, then. Thank you for your contribution. Let's hear what you have to say now. Oh, good morning. Are you there?
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Chidi Chukuma joining you from Bo.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Dr. Olisa Mbeki and the Franklin.
Go ahead.
Yes, talking of the election in Rivers State, just a show of supremacy. I can't even agree with anybody who is saying that it was peaceful. Even as we speak now, that place has been highly militarized. There are military people all over the place intimidating the voters. Some of them did not participate because of fear of unknown, because of heavy presence of the military people. And there's somebody who can come up to tell me that it was peaceful. No, it wasn't. There was intimidation, even from the military officers in here, intimidating the ordinary people, the citizens of River State. And the Fubara has been so much humiliated here. He was suppressed. I thought that when they succumbed to their pressure, that they will allow him, even to allow him to conduct that election. But even at that, they did not allow him. Why not restore him even before this election? So they have achieved their aim because they want to take that place by force, by fire, by force. And they have taken it. And the people of the state are so much intimidated. That is not democracy at all. This is an aberration. And this thing, if we set this standard on this country, there will be a repeat of it. That is what we will be expecting. That any ruling party can do whatever they like, without due regard to the law. And that is making this country to look as a theater of absurdity. That is what is happening in this country. And before the same mistake he have, I don't know why he's saying this, because he's the first person that is negotiated with the terrorists, paid them ransom. Even after that, they continued their onslaught. And that is why he said that even if his guy is captured, that he will not pay ransom. Why is he complaining now?
Should be rounding off. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, morning, Honor.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Tony George.
Go ahead.
Morning from Asaba.
Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, let me start on the aspect of the election that happened on Saturday. It's very great something that this kind of thing is placed in our own country or Nigeria, where we believe that we have our laws and we have our constitution guiding us on what our work is. But if things are going to do that, that means that it's almost like we don't have the law anymore in the country, because if a man that we all know that nobody voted for him is conducting a local government election, so local government election, that is not election. But all this blame will go down to Fubara. But can blame him is like the first time all this is happening. I told him it's only that he can go to court and court will turn him back as the governor of River State. That is the only way I would believe that he fought a good fight. But this time around, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to the university, because he brought them into this mess. Because if you know that you don't have the strength, you don't have the caliber, you don't have the power, why fighting with it? Because look at that, they have put everything outside and in River State. And that is the eye opener for us to know that these people truly win River State. Why APC and President Tinubu are so busy fighting to restore their own people in the river? It's actually that he won that state, but by the mandate of the people. So the eye opener to we all. Because what they are doing after this election now, next thing you hear is to stop Obama back. As the governor that they will just be anti-governor. Governor will just they don't have any power as the executive governor of that state. It's a shame to that man. It's a weekly. Good morning.
Good morning. 0803-827-6694. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Simon from Ozovu.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. APC has achieved what they want in River State. So, congratulations to them. But God is around. Someday, every person will see what he does himself. President and that man has done what they want. There is no democracy in Nigeria, please. Thank you.
All right, then. That's your opinion. 0803-827-6694. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
This is Sunday from his brother.
Let's hear you, Sunday.
The only difference in River State is that solar is better. That is the only difference. I have four local government elections which some elected officers and governors conduct. Them change. Let us face the fact. The only difference is that the solar is better. If not, it's just location. They will just call us some people and locate all these things to them and call it election. Here in Anambra State, it happens. In other states. And that's what I always say. If you can do this in local government, when we come to nation, everybody will begin to cry. INEC. But all these people are crying. Both ex-governors, what do they call them? They have conducted local government in their area. And we see how they did it. And when you go to office, you begin to cry. We must start from grassroots, doing the right thing from the local government that is before the federal. Just like security. As the analysts always say, if you don't localize security, you can't get it right from national. You can't get it right. Anything you are going to do, we must start from the grassroots. The moment anything starts from grassroots, if we go to up. Don't wait for things from up for. Things we start from down here and go to up. So please, all these governors, both incoming one, both the S1, we have opportunity to conduct local government elections. Conduct is free and fair.
All right.
So that INEC will look at you. None do their own from the national. Not where you come to the local, you do whatever you like, and you go to up and one day to see the free and fair. God will not even support that. Thank you.
All right, then. Let's hear you. Good morning. You should try to reconnect now. 0803-221-6973. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Olisa Mbeki and Frank.
Go ahead, Mario.
Well, people who are crying about local government in River State. Why are you crying? That's something happened in another state and in every other state. So the same thing. The show administrator has elected his young people. You understand? Now, we are working for Udala. If I were Udala, I will forget about River State. Because there is nothing again they are going to work here to come and do. If Udala, is going there. He should no longer, but he's now Madam Fubara. Yes, because he's going to serve whosoever that is doing whatever that River State. So that we are him. He should save himself without embarrassment. You are not only the House of Assembly, you are not only the government. So what are you going to do? So, if you stop raising the elective politics, we don't need to think of something again. Whatever he makes us expire or not, we don't need it again. So, once you reject it, you don't need that thing again. Going there is just to start Tinubu and just a weekend. If there's not what they want to do, they don't do it again. Instead of me answering Madam Fubara, it is better that I shy away. Simple and short. Thank you very much.
All right, there. Quite an interesting. Did you just say Madam Fubara? Please go to Facebook.
No, but what if the situation we have in River State now is going to breed that kind of checks and balances we want in a democracy, whereby the executive will not have control over the legislature, and they will not have control over the local government chairman. I'm just asking the question. So let's go to the Facebook page. Dr. Mrs. Molebara from Were says, I advise Obara to resign honorably than face this humiliation and embarrassment. So we call this charade in River State. Okay, so what do we call this charade in River State? What a country indeed. A lot of illegalities and unacceptable things keep going on, and you keep quiet and allow things to keep degenerating to this level. So this is how they have killed democracy in Nigeria. Are we from my country? As a Hillary from... Okay, he says, El Rufai is still telling us the truth of last election in 2023, where Tinubu was third position, but El Rufai and his cohorts with INEC manipulated the results and kept him in first position. What a man commit today must haunt him or her tomorrow. Okay, that's from Ezra Hillary. Tochku Stanley says, it amazes me the way Nigerians react in terms of being taken unaware, despite knowing the pre-scheduled... Okay. Despite knowing the pre-schedule of many political outcomes. Talking about Rivers local government election, isn't it obvious that what we see today is the result of the poll as predestined outcome? Okay, Wiki and the FG have succeeded in their plot for 2027. Then, concerning governmental policies on insecurity, the presidency is politically mortgaging the lives of Nigerians for their political ambitions and personal gains. Nigeria is a lawless state, he posted from 33. Ugochukwu Frank says, Rivers local government election was a state-sanctioned hijack. An Abuja-backed government with no mandate staged a coup on federalism. Courts, INEC, civil society, international partners reject and nullify it. Rivers is a warning. Defend the constitution, protect your vote. He posted from Onitsha. FUO says what is going on in River State is unbelievably ridiculous. Where is our so-called democracy? And he's listening from Aguilera. Iken Nene says, okay, thank you, Iken Nene. Thank you, Nake Gonu. And then Master BSJ says it is clear in all indication that Mr. P2B is applying intellectual politics to put APC into confusion to avoid attack from the ruling party by not publicly belonging to any political party. A patient dog will always eat the fattest bone. Okay, he posted from Onitsha.
All right then, gentlemen, we are rounding off today's conversation. Tony, you've heard the comments so far. What says you?
We've seen the whole thing, and what we keep having, just like Wiki has also re-echoed, that Fubara is coming back on the 18th of September, that he returns, that the emergency rule expires, and then our jurisprudence has not been able to tell us anything about this emergency. For the past 6 months, court hasn't said anything, whether if it is right, if it is wrong, is it something we are going to allow, and for us to understand the implication of whatever we're doing in consideration with the provisions of the law. So it is something bizarre that there will be such kind of rule that plans for just 6 months without any statement coming from the court, because we have these matters. PDP had brought this issue before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court hasn't done anything. And we saw when there was this issue of Naira this, Naira that, when the new notes came into existence, we saw how some governors went to challenge it in court. We saw how prompt the Supreme Court was in issuing directives. So we've not seen anything. So it's a big reminder that our court should stand up where necessary. There's nothing wrong if they come out and say there's nothing wrong with the emergency rule, so we take it as part of our law. That is it. But as for what we know so far, we keep saying we cannot find it anywhere in our constitution. Even from the time the local government system, and many people don't even know that the local government system started in 1916 in this country, even immediately after the amalgamation, with the first formal local government system known as the Native Authority Ordinance. We are the local chiefs, and then many of them were allowed to have this indirect rule system by the law. Look at the system. But the point remains that, as I always say, our court should come out where necessary to save this democracy. There's nothing wrong about that. Wherever there is such litigation of high importance, the need, the time becomes very essential for court to make statements.
All right, then. Thank you, Tony, for your wonderful analysis this morning. And of course, Franklin, what would your parting shots be?
Well, I expect those who have local standing to challenge the legality of the election that was conducted in River State, because that's the only way we can, put an end to this, or that's the only way we can say that it is white or black. So those who have local standing in River State, of course, they have to go to court and test if the sole administrator has any power to have conducted that very election. Because if we do that, it's going to add to our legal jurisprudence.
All right, then. Thank you very much for being a part of today's conversation on the Polity. Definitely making a return tomorrow, 9:15 down to 11 a.m. Until then, my name is Chisom Chinedu. Good morning.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Or some kind of petty bourgeoisie anytime you live in here. In this country, you gotta be in skullduggery, making your money illicitly to live like somebody. In this country, it's outrageous and insane. Them crazy prices in Port of Spain, and like the merchants going out their brain, and the working man like you only toiling in vain. Where you ever hear a television for 7,000, $250,000 for the piece of land? A pair of sneakers, $200, 80,000, 90,000 for motor cars. At last